Console, online. HPG connection, online. Educational module, online. All systems, nominal.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of On the Origins of Battlemechs. I am your host today, Brent Stewart McKee, and joining me is...
I'm Joshua.
I'm Geoff.
I'm Conor.
Today we are talking about the Emperor, which is a 90-ton assault mech in Battletech universe. It is an iconic piece of machinery found in almost every successor state's stable or garrison units. So odds are you're going to be able to either play with it or play against it.
Yeah, it has an interesting design history as one of the earliest battle mechs. Definitely one with teething troubles as the technology was in its infancy.
It was initially designed by Quarry Arms, the primitive version, and they're really only notable for having designed this. They were part of the research team on the Mackie. This was their one attempt at making a mech, and after the 1A was effectively shelved, they folded in a completely non-historically noteworthy way. We don't know what happened to them.
Yeah, at least they have a legacy that outlived the company,
which is ultimately what most companies can hope for, I think. Overall, the Emperor has design quirks of being a command mech and also have improved cooling jackets for the right and left arm large laser, which means it gets a -1 to all of its heat when it fires the weapon. If you are playing with design quirks, that is.
Yeah, and that would be for the 6A, right, Brent?
That would be for all of them. The Emperor 1A also has bad reputation quirk and becomes obsolete at 2470.
And it's missing the large laser quirk because it doesn't have large lasers.
That would also be correct, yes.
Yeah, they were bought in the 5A.
Geoff and I were talking about this one earlier and some of its design issues and production dates versus prototype dates. So, Geoff, you want to clue the listener in on the sordid design history of this Emperor 1A?
So basically, from what I've gone through the research and TRO, so I basically found that the initial prototype was between 2442, finalised with the prototype in 2452. Wasn't exactly a glowing prototype. There was an emergency run of the 1A series done in 2464, and the final 1A models were finished in 2472.
That's largely because of how many issues they had with the prototype technology, and then they'd gotten it refined to the point where emergency military buildup in hegemony, they just like, okay, you have a mech design, build it for us.
And I mean, considering they're a 90-ton mech, they're not overly armed with only 2 AC5s and 3 medium lasers.
I think the most noteworthy thing about this mech, and particularly the most noteworthy thing about the 1A, is what it's missing. It's missing jump jets.
Yep. Those would come with the 5A in the 2580s, is kind of, as Geoff pointed out, is the production model, or the first production model of the Emperor 1A, whereas the 1A is really prototype or from 2464 to 2472, a pre-production design. Yes, the 5A was a run in the 2580s, was the kind of production run, upgrades the AC5s to AC10s, and finally adds jump jets. As Brent mentioned earlier, the company disappeared, and the Emperor chassis wouldn't be seen until the Star Corps introduced a new higher tech model in 2612, which is the 6A Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll find the 5A still carried AC5.
Did it?
It did.
Okay.
Yeah, it had the large lasers, it had extra heat sinks, it goes from 10 to 16.
The 1A had a battle value of 1453.
The battle value of the 5A was 1830.
So now that we've brought up the iconic model of the 6A, which is the one you're going to find most commonly everywhere, what does everybody think about its design? How does it speak to you when you see this walk up on the field?
I see a massive anti-aircraft battery with the 6A's 2 LB-10Xs. You're just swatting VTOLs out of the air and then flip a switch and all of a sudden you're smashing vehicles and other mechs with some pretty potent mid-range firepower.
What I see when I look at the broad chest of the Emperor is I think the design philosophy was not only an effective weapons platform, but also a chassis meant to impress, have a presence on the battlefield, because it fills up the space quite nicely. Not a lot of negative space in any of the artwork. It's generally portrayed as moving and aiming its weapons towards things, being very active, which of course is a good pose for an assault mech to have.
I mean, the name Emperor implies like a presence, doesn't it?
Funnily enough, I think it looks more of a traditional American football linebacker than linebacker battlemech. It's got those shoulder pads. It's got that V, top heavy. It's just going to charge at you.
The 6A sort of, when it was introduced, it's got the XL engine, it's got pulse lasers, it's got double heat sinks, it's got case. It's actually got some serious technology in it for once.
It is a staple of the battlefield because of that. It holds a very important role and holds the battlefield. It can engage at long and medium range very effectively.
Yeah, it's very interesting how when you leave off with the Emperor 5A, it's still basically a primitive mech. And then StarCorps reintroduces it, and they're like, we're packing this thing to the gills with the latest technology. You go from 2 AC5s and 2 large lasers to 2 LB-10Xs, the same large laser. 2 of the medium lasers are upgraded to pulse. But still, it's massive upgrade in technology.
So for someone that's new to tabletop like myself, what's the difference between a medium laser and a medium pulse laser?
Medium laser is the most efficient weapon in the game. 5 points of damage, 3 points of heat, 1 ton, 1 critical slot. A pulse laser has a slightly shorter range. It's 246 versus the medium laser's 369, and it does 6 points of damage.
6 and 4. 6 points of damage, 4 heat.
And then the reason you take them is it's a -2 to your targeting number. So at 2 hexes away, you get a -2. At 4 hexes away, you get a 0. And then at 6 hexes, you get a +2, which it kind of makes it the regular medium laser with that 369. You've got about the same chance to hit out at 6 hexes, but that medium laser can go an additional 3 hexes. And then that pulse laser has an easier time of hitting inside that 2 hex band. So it's kind of an infighting weapon. You want to get in close with those pulse lasers, do a little more damage, you hit a little bit better.
So the next one in the line is the EMP-6D, and it switches out the regular lasers for ER lasers, same with the pulse, and then you also have the ER large lasers in the arm and a rotary AC5.
I've never played an Emperor, but if I was going to play an Emperor, this would be my favorite, because I love rotary autocannon 5s.
I personally disagree.
Opens bag of popcorn. Let's hear the discourse.
I would go with the base one with the LB-10s. I find that they're at least more reliable, but every single time it seems when I take a rotary autocannon 5, it doesn't matter how many shots I fire. If I'm firing more than one, the thing just jams on me.
I run a lot of the hammer hands, which is 2 rotary autocannon 5s. So I've had pretty good luck with not jamming. And if you run it rate 5, which is kind of your optimal rate for a rotary autocannon 5 for damage wise, you're putting out a potential of 25 points of damage from each weapon, 2.5 times that the LB-10 is going to do. And even at average, you're going to be doing 3 hits, which will be an extra 5 points of damage over the LB-10. I just love racks. But, the LB-10 is great, so I can see, why the reliability is a pro for you.
Again, this could just come down to horrible dice rolls in the end.
Or differing playstyles.
That too. I do tend to like to get in a lot closer.
Having the XL Fusion engine still being an assault mech, it has walking distance of 3 hexes, running of 5, and jumping of 3. It well deserves the title or role of Juggernaut.
Just wish there was room in there for advanced jump jets. Bump that up to 355. That'd be perfect.
And the 6D, that was introduced in 3069, I believe?
Yes, introduced in 3069. So that's going to be after the clan invasion during the Civil War between the Federated Sons and the Lyran Commonwealth.
So it has a battle value of 2382.
And a point value of 44. The PV for the 6A was 42. And PV of the 5A was 42 as well.
So next up we have the 6L.
So that drops the XL. It goes back to a standard fusion engine. It's got a Gauss rifle, an ER-PPC. It's also got stealth armor and a Guardian ECM suite. We've got 4 medium pulse lasers and also TSM.
It's interesting. The Emperor kind of makes it easy. The 6D is the rotary autocannons, and the D stands for Davy. The 6L has stealth armor, and the L stands for Liao. See if the rest of them keep that trend going.
The M is for Merrick, Free Worlds League.
There you go. The 4 pulse lasers are nice because you get in nice and close and you're probably going to hit with the majority of them. And the Gauss rifle, I think my love of Gauss rifles has been well stated in the show already. I'll take one any day I can.
In a way, that Gauss rifle is its only weapon, because when you're running under stealth, your ability to sink heat is drastically reduced. When stealth is active, you gain 10 heat around from it.
I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, though, because you want to be sitting at about 9 heat with that triple strength myomer, right?
You got to be able to manage that heat so that you can keep going, and you've only got 24 heat sinks.
It's a knife's edge you have to walk.
This seems like a bit of a sort of jack of all trades. It's got like the long range weapons with the Gauss and the PPC. It's got the close to the pulse lasers, and it's got the TSM. So it looks like it's almost trying to hedge its bet sort of each way.
With that ERPPC and the medium pulse lasers, you can build up your heat pretty quick to hit that TSM level, and then stop shooting that. Let's see, you got 24 heat sinks. If you're running, that's 2 heat. You got 10 from your stealth armors, 12, 27 with the ERPPC, 28 the Gauss rifle.
And then you use your 4 medium pulse lasers to feather your heat up and down.
You're at 4 heat over with your Gauss rifle, ERPPC, and stealth going at a run. Fire 1 medium pulse, and you're at 8 heat over. You need to hit that magic 9 number.
Well, without its TSM activated, it's got the 353, like all the rest. But with the TSM activated, it's got a 4-6.
And it doesn't suffer from the XL engine dropping a side torso and keeling over.
Yeah, this one really feels like a good heavy to me, rather than an assault mech.
Looks like it's got a lot of flexibility.
This feels like a endurance guerrilla prolonged engagement or conflict mech. It feels built to withstand a guerrilla warfare, at least to me, with the reliance on energy-based weapons and just having the Gauss rifle being the only consumable.
It does seem like it'd be an easier mech to resupply as opposed to the others.
Yeah, and even that Gauss rifle has 3 tons of ammo, so that's going to stay fed for a bit. Well, the PV is 52.
So the battle value for the Emperor 6L is 2746 according to the record sheets, but according to Battletech Master Unit List, it's listed as 2781, which is the first discrepancy we've come across. Master Unit List is an official source.
Which then we move on from the L to the M. As was previously mentioned, M is for Merrick, but in this case, it's actually for Word of Blake.
Our favorite faction to hate.
And you can tell that because it's got improved C3, which is a distinctly Comstar and Word of Blake bit of tech. Bumps the autocannon 10s of 6A to light Gauss rifles. Upgrades the large lasers to ER large lasers, and then has 3 medium pulse lasers and an ER medium laser. And this guy's a sniper.
He also has TSM.
Nice. I missed that.
And a light fusion engine as opposed to the extra light of the base model.
Which of course allows it to survive a little bit longer on the battlefield if one of its torsos gets sheared off, because it'll still just take the 2 hits as opposed to the regular XL, which would take the 3 hits taking down the mech.
Can I change my favorite mech, my favorite Emperor, from the 6D to the 6M or the 6M2? Because
you're locked in. You're locked in.
I'm really liking this. It's got the mobility with TSM. It's got the sniping capability linked with the C3. This guy's a nice long-range sniper.
The ER medium laser, I just love an ER. Getting that extra 6 points of range is very useful.
From a play point of view, what's the advantage of a TSM on a sniping mech? Is it purely just for mobility?
Yeah, because he's got those 2 ER large lasers, so he can heat up pretty quick, use that extra 4-6 movement to scoot out of the way like he was a heavy mech. Or he gets in close and he used that heat to hit you a lot harder in melee.
The way I would personally use that TSM, use it to get a higher movement modifier for return fire.
It also lets him into like heavily wooded areas because he's got those extra movement points, so he could potentially get to higher ground or into a heavier forest to take up his firing position.
Every movement point counts.
Battle value for that is 2090. That's a significant drop from the 6L model.
I think a lot of that's going to be tied up in the
Stealth armor.
stealth armor. And now don't forget that with the C3 option, the 6M, once you turn that on, the 6M is going to bump up significantly in BV cost.
It does work a bit like a force multiplier as well, though, so there is the advantage of that. So there's also like a sub sort of version of that with the M2 as well. That was bought in 3083.
It was produced by the Duchy of Oriente and then later the reconstituted Star League on Aramis 4, and it replaces the C3I with just a regular C3. There's no official record sheet for this one, and as such, no official battle value. We did a quick rebuild on Solaris Skunkworks, and
the only information we have on the Emperor 6M2 comes from Field Manual 3085. Since the Blakist C3I systems were pretty much a dead technology with the Word of Blake having been destroyed by that point, the Star Corps took the 6M model, ripped out that C3I, put in a standard C3 system, and that's all we know about it. So we made a rough guess and said it's got a C3 slave, and then it's got an extra 1.5 tons and 1 critical slot to play with. And so we guessed that maybe it's got an extra 0.5 ton of armor to max out the armor and 1 extra ton of light Gauss ammo to give it some extra endurance on the battlefield.
So since there's no official record sheet, we've sort of just guessed a little bit, educated guess.
So the battle value for our theoretical 6M2 comes out to 2138, 48 more points of BV. But again, it's theoretical best guess, deep intel work here.
next up we have the EMS 6S, the lyran model, and it has 2 LXB-20X ACs, so 2 giant shotguns, and 3 medium pulse lasers and 1 medium laser in the head.
That seems like something nasty you don't want to meet in an urban terrain.
Yeah, this is the 6A done lyran style. The lyrans love their AC-20s.
This one doesn't have the triple strength Myomers, so it's got a walking speed of 3, 5, and 3 for jumping, and it switched back from the sniper role to the juggernaut, which makes sense given its armaments. It also has the standard extra large fusion engine, so it is susceptible to being taken down by losing a single torso.
Yeah, and I think the only reason that this is Juggernaut instead of Brawler is the sheer amount of armor it has. Like, because this is definitely something you want to get in close with and just brawl. And this one, not only do you have that XL engine that makes you kind of fragile, it's got 6 tons of LB-20X ammo to feed those 2 massive autocannons, which means if somebody cracks through and pops one of those off, you would turn into a funeral pyre. Except the Lyrans went ahead and looks like they put case on both the left and right torso to prevent you from disappearing in a giant mushroom cloud.
So the battle value for this guy has bumped down to 2065.
And he's got alpha strike point value of 46, and I think we've missed the 6M as an alpha strike point value of 48.
The next one we have up is the EMP-7L, and it goes back to the more traditional build of 2 AC-10s. It has a ER large laser in the left torso, as well as 2 medium pulse lasers and a EMC Guardian suit.
As well as triple strength Myomers and stealth armor.
And case, and it also runs a standard fusion engine as well.
But it is missing jump jets. So its mobility is only 3.5, and then with this triple strength Myers, 4.6.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it comes out in 3069, and it was produced in the St. Ives area. That area had only been back part of the Capellan Confederation for 6 years at that point. Before that, the St. Ives Compact had been closely allied with House Davian, and House Davian loves their autocannons, and we're seeing this Liao variant is rocking 2 AC-10s, which is something you would expect from the Davians, not the Capellan Confederation. And it's also kind of unusual for 3060s. The Emperor started out with LBX autocannons. The main reason I think they went to autocannon 10s at this point is the new precision ammunition and armor piercing and the other autocannon ammunition that House Davian came up with to make autocannons competitive at this more advanced date.
So it has a point value of 2179.
I got 2232.
I have 2232 as well.
So it appears these Capellans are cheating on their battle value.
It appears that my notes, which are taken from the internet, are lining up with all of yours, but the record sheet I have probably has had a rebalance since then.
So right now, the MUL says 2179, and Sarna, which I have also open, says 2232.
Which is what the record sheet says. I'm just saying the two Capellan variants are the ones that we're having discrepancies.
I don't know why I'm not surprised.
So then in 3127 they brought out the 8L variant, which sort of retrogrades back to the sort of LBX-10 autocannons, and it's also got medium re-engineered lasers replacing the pulse lasers, and the ER large laser is swapped for a plasma rifle. It retains the stealth armor and the TSM from the 7L.
Yeah, so it's going to keep that speed of 3, 5, and 4, 6. This guy is noteworthy because it's the Dark Age era variant. This is when it came out, during the Dark Age. So when you're playing with it, you're probably playing after the Jihad.
So what exactly is a re-engineered laser?
Because the re-engineered laser was developed by the Federated Suns, and they were trying to match the firepower of the new clan heavy lasers with the firing rate of pulse lasers. So the final re-engineered laser doesn't do either. It's a little bit more powerful than a standard laser, but it has the ability to defeat reflective armor. So you don't get your bonus defense or bonus armor protection for having your mech equipped with reflective armor against re-engineered lasers.
Okay, and it also probably quickly talk me through like a plasma rifle as well.
So the plasma rifle was the Capellan's attempt to create a long-range flamer, basically, and it functions much like a PPC, similar range brackets, except it has ammo. And then when you hit a unit with it, if it's a mech or something else that tracks heat, you do D6 heat to that unit on top of the 10 points of damage. If you hit something that doesn't track heat, like a vehicle or infantry, you do the 10 points of damage, and then you do an additional D6 points of damage.
2d6 damage, according to Sarna.
Yeah, it's 1d6 of heat, 2d6 of damage. So, and then heat that you generate for your own mech when you fire it is less, but the trade-off is now you have ammunition you have to track.
And I'll say right now from experience, these things are absolutely terrifying. It's the only weapon that I'm scared of.
Okay, so we've got another discrepancy with the battle value though too. Master unit list is saying 2385, whereas Sarna
And the record sheet is saying 2370.
Yeah.
Once again, it's the Liao mechs.
At some point, correlation becomes causality.
Exactly.
That pretty much covers all the sort of variants and sort of sub-variants of the Emperor.
So we have some notable pilots throughout history. The short list we have is Kelly Metz, a Solaris 7 pilot. The other most notable pilot we have is Sun Tzu Liao, although it is noted that it is probable that many times that it was piloted, it was not actually piloted by him, but more his personal guard in order to bolster morale of the people and keep the Emperor safe. And we also have Lyran, a clan seeker who found the first one in a Brian cache and restored it using clan tech and piloted it for the rest of her career.
And let's not forget Warner Doles, former Black Wind Lancer and a military leader in the Free Capella movement, Free St. Ives, who piloted a bronze-painted emperor during the last stages of the Capellan St. Ives War.
As well as into the Jihad.
I did find a custom variant as well of the 6ME, which was piloted by Lieutenant Colonel Anne Marie McCormick during the conflict of Atreus.
It's Atreus, yeah.
Atreus. So she had a C3 slave in the head, snub-nosed PPC in silver bullet Gauss in each arm, extra heat sinks, and 2 medium pulse lasers in the torso, but doesn't have the TSM though.
So what can we say about this mech overall, having looked at all of its variants individually now? It is a quintessential iconic mech in the Battletech universe. It's a hard point on the battlefield. It has a presence as its name invokes, but it doesn't make me want to pilot it. It doesn't inspire me.
I mean, I'm not a assault mech fan myself. To me, it seems for most of these variants, it's very much a trooper assault mech. Firepower is solid. It's right where you expect an assault mech would be. It's the same base speed as most assault mechs. It's got the jumping capability for a little extra maneuverability, and it's got twinned weapons. So if you take damage to one side, you've still got your other one. The variants that really stand out to me are the House Liao ones, because those all seem to kind of drop that paired weaponry and go for more varied loadout, much more kind of heavy mech feel. The Steiner one, the dual AC-20s, that one I think is pretty cool, and it's very, very different from the others because it's not kind of a mid-range jack of all trades trooper. That one is I'm up in your face, I'm blasting gaping holes in your armor with my AC-20s, and then I'm gutting the interior with the cluster munitions.
It's the first one through the door.
Yep, it's the breacher.
Yeah, they definitely don't have any sort of standout, like, I do this thing great. We sort of do a bit of everything.
I would say that, yeah, it doesn't seem like anything special, but that being said, it seems effective. It seems like the sort of mech that when you see it across the table or whatever, the battlefield, you're going to have to respect it, even though it's nothing special. It'll do the job.
Reliability is an important thing, and being a reliable threat, that is a value on the battlefield.
So I have an interesting question for you guys. The Emperor versus the Highlander. They're both 90-ton mechs. They're both 353. The Highlander is incredibly iconic. Why the Highlander, or why the Emperor?
Well, I'm partial to the Highlander because my mum is a MacDonald, my dad is a Stewart, and I've married a McKee, which, Irish and Scottish have a long interwoven history. So I'm partial to it that way. That being said, though, the Highlander is jump capable. It's got the Gauss rifle, which I love. The set of SRMs in the left side of its loadout are great for dealing with problems up close and personal. The design has much more personality to me.
I would personally go with the Highlander, but I think that mostly has to do with my personal taste and aesthetic. That, and when I first started playing Battletech, it was one of the first mechs that I saw, and I'll never forget someone doing a death from above to one of my heavy mechs in that thing.
Classic Highlander burial.
Precisely.
Geoff, Highlander for you as well?
I'm still very new to Battletech, so I'm not too familiar with all of the mechs. So
I just find it curious that the other two, you both mentioned the Highlander's jump capability. The Emperor has the same jump capability.
This is true, but not all of them.
I understand it has the same jump capability. For me, I think the main reason I prefer it is just purely aesthetic. And then you could do the exact same Highlander burial with an Emperor, but it's just I don't know.
Yeah, I just find it interesting because the Highlander is iconic. Everybody knows the Highlander. Everybody loves the Highlander. The Royal version has the Gauss rifle, the LRM-20 to hit from range. But I mean, this guy's got a variant with two light Gauss rifles, 2 large lasers to hit from range, or ER large lasers. It's interesting. They both kind of do similar things, fulfill similar roles, but the Emperor just, I don't know, doesn't quite have that same panache that the Highlander does.
And I think that's really the underlying issue. And we've said it's not a bad mech. You see it on the battlefield, you respect it, or it's not going to respect you. But part of the love of this world is these mechs are an extension of the pilot or the unit or what you're trying to do, and so it has a lot of personality that you imbue into them. And the Emperor, the design doesn't lend itself to that sort of customization, I think.
Is it the fact that it's a good reliable mech, but it's just got no heart?
One could even say that some of them have too much heart, though, considering the XL engines.
But I was gonna say, I don't know. I mean, the Highlander's iconic, but looking at their capabilities, I don't know. I find myself kind of leaning towards this because I like the dual autocannons. I like the dual lasers. I don't know. It's solid. It's reliable.
I like the Highlander more. I do think, though, I would rather, if I was playing a game or piloting a mech, I think I'd rather take the Emperor just because I do believe it to be more reliable when you look at what it can do. Because the Emperor just seems to be able to do everything well. It doesn't seem to really excel at anything, but just does well.
Well, the Highlander is a very role-specific mech, whereas the Emperor is more of to use a dog analogy, it's a mutt. Every dog has its day. It will fill what role you need.
And I think if I were to be wanting to pilot a mech or find an assault mech to throw into a lance for a game of Battletech, I think that I would personally value the versatility of the Emperor over the Highlander. But that still being said, I like the Highlander more.
Interesting little thought experiment because they're very similar in their size and movement profiles.
I'm looking at them right now in the TRO, and they're near identical other than weapon loadout.
So our sources for this episode are Sarna, Experimental Tech Volume 4, The Succession Wars TRO and Record Sheets, 3145 New Tech, New Upgrades, and Master Unit List, which we will cross-reference more astutely in the future. And shoutouts to Sarna, Master Unit List, and of course the Wolfnet Radio Podcast community. We are supported by our Patreons at patreon.com/on the Origin of Battlemechs. Our social media on Twitter is at Origin of Mechs. We also have a dedicated channel on the Everything Battletech Discord. Feel free to stop by and say hi. If you have any questions, requests for topics, or wish to contact us, our email is ontheoriginofbattlemechs@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, I encourage you to let your friends know about us and to leave a review. Special thanks to my friend Laura for the intro and outro. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and have yourselves a great day.
Make it a great one.
Catch us all later.
Peace out, Mech Warriors.
Module complete. System standby. Would you like to load the next module?
I can't remember what I was saying.
Peace out, Mech Warriors.
Peace out, Mech Warriors. I had a brain fart there. It's like, I had a thing. What was my thing?